Hello and welcome back to our channel. My name is Francisco and I work for Virtual CNS. And we're here to actually make another video in regards to a topic that is, I think, very interesting and important to a lot of our clients and a lot of businesses out there that may be requiring this type of compliance. In this case, we're going to talk about HIPAA compliance and Office 365. Okay. So we're going to get started. This is going to be the main conversation about this is going to be an introduction to if Office 365 is actually in compliance with the HIPAA, okay, with HIPAA compliance. So that's the main question in this conversation. We're going to try to be as brief as possible, and we're going to try to discuss a few topics about this. In other videos, we're going to go in a little more advanced conversation, and potentially we're going to bring other people in to discuss exactly what this is and then how you can utilize Microsoft services in your organization. Okay, so obviously we're going to get started with the main question we have here. What exactly is going to be, we're not going to go into detail, but those who knows, HIPAA is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So those who are required, or those industries require, or businesses required by the HIPAA compliance, they know who they are, of course, and potentially they've been requested or they're being asked that they need to be in compliance when it comes to their services, business services. For example, at their office, they need to be in compliance. They need to be following the particular rules that they're required to run their businesses, okay? And we're gonna talk about who in reality needs to be in compliance first, okay? We put it here all the way at the bottom. Typically, who has to be in compliance? So obviously we hear in the news and we hear on all the journals and about who has to be in compliance. We all know that dentists, doctors, pharmacists, the main providers for health has to be in compliance with this HIPAA, okay? Now, the question is how you can be in compliance when utilizing, for example, Office 365. We're not going to go into the details of what is a HIPAA compliance, what kind of rules do you have to follow, what kind of documentation you have to follow. We're not going to go into that side of the conversation. We're going to talk about if you are a HIPAA compliant business that is required to have it, then can you utilize Office 365? That's going to be our main focus. Now, it's important to say that not only the dentists, doctors, pharmacists, and all these health organizations need to be in compliance, but it's important to say that if you have an IT company, for example, or maybe a law office or billing services, as you guys can see in this document, are supporting any type of organization and interacting and sending data back and forth because the relationship is there, you also, those companies, they do need to be in compliance. Sometimes the conversation is not really extended to that point, but it is important to know that because some organizations may be helping, assisting these HIPAA compliant clients, but they don't necessarily are in compliance themselves. So it is important to specify that. Okay, so when we get that understanding, then we'll talk about a little bit about Office 365. So here we go. We talk about, is Office 365 HIPAA compliant? And the question is, yes, it is, but depends on how you structure the organization. Okay, so for example, if you have a HIPAA compliant client and you onboard them into Office 365, at that moment in time, Microsoft is definitely following certain guidelines, security guidelines, but they are not necessarily in compliance unless you do or follow different implementations to be able to secure and guarantee that they are in compliance while using Microsoft services. Okay, so that's very important. If, for example, if you want to be in compliance, but you only go to office.com and you sign up, or you sign up with your IT provider, you're not in compliance. That's important to understand. You're not. In order for you to be in compliance using this product, you have to go through a series of things in order to be in compliance. That's why you do have to work with the most likely a provider. And it could be an IT service, it could be a provider that is going to be able to understand how you're supposed to be in compliance and follow different guidelines to do that, okay? So before we get into the details on how you can actually do that, we're gonna talk about the security aspect of this, okay? How Microsoft helps at the moment to be able to be in compliance as a product, okay? So the first thing is that, yeah, Microsoft, for all the communication while you're using Office.com, they do implement end-to-end encryption for all the data stored in their servers, okay? And that's important to understand. And this is out of the gate. I mean, you don't have to do anything automatically. As soon as you're using Office.com, they do have encryption in place, which is actually a requirement for the HIPAA compliance, okay? It is important to know that within, and this is a lot of conversation with a lot of our customers, when you're sending emails back and forth, certain data is encrypted, but not necessarily all the information, meaning the subject lines, the email addresses, or the headers, they are not encrypted. So you have to be aware, and depending on the process that you're following, maybe email transmission is not something that you should do if you want to be in compliance. So emails is something that, even though Office 365 it is encrypted, emails transmission is not entirely. So and that's another thing that we're going to talk about, how your IT provider should be able to teach all those users using Office 365 to really understand what is HIPAA compliance and what is not, okay? The next topic, the next conversation is, the Office 365 also offers what we call dual factor authentication, okay? This is also required in case you lose your password for the ability for not anyone to be able to access the data. And of course, Office 365 offers the dual factor authentication to really protect you from that. So that is very important. And again, all these basic services are coming out of the gate. You don't have to do anything at all. They're already implemented by Microsoft. They already designed their product to have these available, okay? Access management controls, which is another feature from Microsoft service, is also available, meaning, and this is very important, very key in HIPAA, basically, you have to be able to track all the logs. You have to be able to track all the transactions from whatever you do inside the organization. That's required. And that's something that also Microsoft provides to you as a client, if that's the case, okay? So those are the things that Microsoft, and is here in point number 2, what kind of security controls they're using. Yes, that's exactly what they use, all those elements that are important for security in general, and also important for you to be in compliance in this case, okay? Now let's talk about, yes, it's good news that Microsoft is able to give you all those tools, but again, we go back to the question, okay, perfect, I'm gonna sign up and I'm still in compliance right away, and the answer is no, okay? The answer is no, you're not in compliance. Why you're not in compliance? First, for 2 different reasons. You do need to sign in what we call a business associate agreement with Microsoft before you actually enroll into Office or you start using Office 365. Okay, and what is that? We're gonna go back here to some concepts here. There's a website from Microsoft again, where you can actually see all the documents, all the resources available when it comes to documents and understanding and then compliance on all those details. They're all available in the PDF here and also Word documents, okay? And there's a file here that we're gonna show you, which is called the HIPAA Business Associate Agreement. This is something that the organization must sign with Microsoft before I start using the product. This is one of the keys that we actually have to do in order for that organization to be in compliance. This is one of the basic requirements, okay? We're not gonna read this. This is available right from the internet. But one of the things that is important here is this. One of the most important items in the conversation is that it is important that Microsoft be able to report certain incidents or activities that happen in their servers. Because remember, when you are using an Office 365 product, the data is being actually hosted in Microsoft, okay? So the Microsoft is responsible in reality for making sure that the data is protected, the data is encrypted, the data is all the information that happens to the data that you own, but it's being hosted at Microsoft in reality. So you need to make sure that everything is in compliance when it comes to this. Now in here, there's a section here that is reporting. And you can even go through this while I explain this, is that there's a lot of things that they have to report. For example, if there's any security incidents in their servers, actually, they have to be reported automatically to you. You have to know about all these changes, incidents that happen, maybe a breach of the customer's information, for example, as you can specify here. Okay, so all this information here has to be notified, and this is what the agreement is for. Okay, if you don't sign any of this in beforehand, there's certain things that are going to happen when it comes to security that you're not going to be notified or you're going to be aware. And of course, that's something that it goes against the HIPAA compliance guidelines. Okay, so that's why the first step is to revise this document in detail. And then if you go back to here, you do have to sign a business associate agreement before you start using the services. Okay, now in combination with this, there's other things that you do have to do, which is be able to work with a provider that is going to guide all the proper use of the data while using Office 365. For example, and we mentioned this before, if you are using emails to transmit information back and forth, that goes against the HIPAA compliance. Okay, that's not, because the header and the emails are not encrypted. So that means that there's an issue there if you want to be in compliance. So there is a lot of proper use and proper training that you have to do for all the users that are in your organization if you want to be under compliance. So you do have to work the details with your provider, with your IT provider, and make sure that you understand, okay, do I have to be in compliance? Yes. Office 365 is in compliance? Sure. Once you sign the agreement, then also you have to follow specific steps to make sure that you are in compliance. Otherwise, you're not going to be in compliance, even though you're using a product that is certified as Microsoft to be in compliance. So there's a confusion out there, and this can get confusing. Wait a second, but I'm using a product right now that is in compliance. Yes, but you also have to make sure that you follow specific procedures in order for that to be really a HIPAA standards. Okay. For example, another example, just to finish the conversation, is if you're using a CRM, for example, Microsoft offers Microsoft Dynamics CRM. Those, for example, you have to turn off the devices, the cache on those devices for offline access. Okay, that's another process that you have to do. If you don't do that, then you're not in compliance, because the data is going to be just out there in some devices, and if the devices get access, maybe obviously that data can be compromised, even though they're not in Microsoft servers. So in order to keep all the data in the Microsoft servers, you do need to do certain steps and certain specific process in order to shut down or turn off the devices that access this type of data. So if you don't do that, you're not in compliance. So again, you have to work little details with your provider in order to be compliant, in order to have a guideline that you have to run a routine pretty much every year to make sure that everybody's following the process, that you do have training available all the time, that you do have all the devices checked on a regular basis to make sure that they're in compliance with the HIPAA standards, okay? And that's very important. So to answer the question, to conclude this video, yes, it is Office 365 is in compliance as long as you follow certain steps and certain guidelines to do this, okay? So that's very important. So hopefully this video helps you to understand exactly if HIPAA is actually, if Office 365 is HIPAA compliant. If you have any questions, you can send us an email to info@virtualcns.com, and we'll be happy to help you to answer more questions in regards to this topic. Thanks again.